Welcome back to our program for Men Only. We've been talking about just the issue of pornography. It has become a rampant situation. They say that roughly, I know this sad thing, even among churches, they say 30 to 40% of men, even sitting in churches, have viewed pornography. I think, Ken, you were talking about at a Promise Keepers event. I think one that. Go ahead and share that.
Well, at the Promise Keeper, one of the things that they said is that in the hotels within an area, like a Promise Keepers event would go into Detroit or Indianapolis and flood 50,000 guys into a stadium. And they found that the X-rated shows on the TV programs within the hotel rooms would skyrocket, even in the process of that Promise Keepers event.
Yeah. Wow. Purity conference or whatever.
Yeah.
Well.
God help us.
That just reflects that it's a battle.
Oh, it's huge.
You know, there's probably how many guys that are sitting in front of something watching and they hate it. They're like, I want to shut this off. I don't want this. I don't feel good.
Yeah, I know.
But I can't shut it off.
It's very addictive.
Yeah,
it's very addictive.
It's become an addiction.
Yeah.
You know, because you hook that up, and I'll use a word that maybe takes this to a PG-13 thing, then you hook it up with masturbation.
Right.
And then that takes everything to a totally different level.
Right.
Now, Kim, how do you see, how let's say there's some married men that are out there getting involved in pornography. How would something like this, how could it affect their marriage? I mean, because some people say, there are even some psychiatrists say that if you want to enhance your sexual relationship with your wife, you should look at pornography.
Yeah, or both of you should. Well, believe me, that is not the right road to go down. I was thinking about it in a marriage situation, for instance. One of the things that came to mind was the fact that Jesus said, if you even look at a woman to lust after her, that you have basically committed adultery with her in your heart. And during the viewing pornography, I mean, that's exactly what you're doing. So spiritually, you've committed adultery against your wife. That's a serious thing. And taken to the extreme, you know, that could lead to the dissolution of the marriage. And I've seen too much divorce to know that there's nothing good that comes of that. And this may take you down that road if you get hooked on it.
So this would be, I was thinking as you're sharing, it's an old computer term, but garbage in, garbage out. If you're putting garbage into your system, into that area of your life, you know, at some point or another, it's going to come out.
It's going to come out. It's going to come out. And I think one of the ways it comes out is what we talked about before, is that maybe you don't perform quite the same in the bedroom anymore. And then she starts thinking, well, what's wrong with me? And how come I don't turn him on anymore? And that kind of thing. And you know, she doesn't know what's going on. And it's not good.
Well, there's people saying, and you know, if you hear it somewhat this way, you know, for a good relationship, you got to have love. Well, the opposite of love is lust.
It's correct. That's correct.
And the thing about pornography is, if I could say it this way, you've got a love angel and a lust demon that can affect every one of us.
Right.
But one of the things that pornography does is feed that lust demon to where you want to get, I want to take.
And that's that whole situation where you said, if you really love your wife, you want to give to her, you want to satisfy her. Your desire is for her, and that she would be happy. That's what love does. But if you're on the lust side of it, it's like, baby, you make me happy. I don't care about you. I want to be happy.
Right.
Exactly.
And so you end up taking things out of your relationship, and usually it boils over with an attitude. And I think that's the thing. It's more than, you know, men, we have a tendency to compartmentalize everything.
Oh, sure.
Right.
I'm doing this for nobody's seeing.
Right.
And I'm doing this on my computer. I've got a magazine hid someplace in my workshop or whatever else, and I've got this in this little box. But it doesn't affect it. You know, it doesn't affect anybody. But the thing about it is, it boils over into other areas of your life. It affects you.
Right. Well, it's a spiritual thing. There's doing something on the inside of you that you're going to carry around on the inside of you. You can't just set it up aside. Set it in this box and leave it there. It doesn't happen that way.
Well, Ken, what do you think?
I think one of the things, and you say that, it affects you mentally. And the issue is just like a man, we like a woman, when we talk about how a woman looks, and one of the things we talked about a little bit this weekend was a confident woman is attractive.
Sure.
They can even be a little bit heavy set. I mean, what
Yeah,
were they saying?
not
Marilyn Monroe wore a
attractive.
Size 14, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
she wore a size 14, but we look at Marilyn Monroe and she's like, yes, that's a hot woman there. Right? But, you know, so it's really in the way they carry themselves. Well, you carry yourselves based on your confidence. And the same thing with a man. A woman's looking at men. They're looking at a man that's confident is attractive to a woman.
Yeah.
And so when you get yourself mixed into this stuff, that dirty feeling that you talked about, like in the first show, that dirty feeling sucks your confidence. Then you can't be with people without feeling uncomfortable. You can't be at certain events.
So you don't have that
things.
confidence, and you don't exude that confidence, and you're not going to attract that woman that's looking for
Right.
a man who, you know, can take care of her.
Exactly.
You know?
And if you're married, that gap becomes in that marriage because she's all of a sudden seeing somebody not confident. You don't see her. You know, she's not seeing you as confident, so then she starts to lose hers, and that whole fire
That's
goes
interesting.
away.
I hadn't thought about that. That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Now, while y'all are talking, I'm thinking about something else. You know, some people say nothing's wrong with pornography. I'm sitting thinking, then why do you do it where nobody's watching? Think about it for a second. Why do they have fences around the parking lot?
But you can't see.
Yeah, so you can't. I mean, it's like why do you sneak in? Or are you like they had, you know, where you could park around back? And
Sure.
you know, why do they have? If it's okay, you know, hey. You don't need fences around the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't, you know. If there is nothing wrong with it, then why do people on their computer that's looking at it, somebody comes walking in, you guys shut your computer.
Right.
Even our own conscience.
Tells us
Right.
it's not right.
Right.
You know, and if I could use another illustration, you know, how do you know smoking's not good for you? What does your body do the first time you take a puff?
There you go.
Your body will tell you. Now you can do it enough that your body begins to be conditioned to it. We see your own conscience, our own, even that, some people, you know, will call your conscience almost like the voice of God.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Your own conscience, the first time you do it, like you were saying, you feel dirty. You feel like, I've looked at something I shouldn't. Mm-hmm. It's like you feel like you don't want anybody to know you did it.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I guess you can do it long enough that all of a sudden
No
that
big deal.
that initial conscience that's going all of a sudden now you've got to where you don't even have to remove it out of your mouth, just keep it on the side. You know, if it was so good, now if we take it, if it was so good, then why don't you do it in front of your kids, which I hope to God you don't.
Right.
You know, most men would not do that.
And most men wouldn't want to see their daughters in a situation like that.
Yeah.
You know, we'd be pulling out shotguns.
Basically.
Yeah,
Go take this guy out.
Exactly right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've got a couple daughters, and it wouldn't go over well.
Yeah, what guy would what perverted guy would put his arm around his daughter and say, honey, I've got a great profession for you.
Yeah, the porn industry. You put money in it.
You know what? And that, I guess, my point is that in and of itself ought to say something.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, girls have to change their names to be porn stars because they don't want it known.
Right.
You know, so something, someplace, we know it's wrong. We know it is.
Yeah.
And someplace, if you take that stuff in, you take that into your life, it has an effect someplace.
Right.
You know, now biblically, the Bible says that if you sow to your flesh, you will of the flesh reap corruption.
Right.
And I think that's, you know, Kim, I've had a ministry with preachers, helping preachers that have been caught in this stuff. And it's amazing how many that I've had to deal with, that, you know, their wives find out, the wives are ready to leave. I mean, it's affected, you know, all sorts of areas of their lives. Because they get into that. And it does. It affects the way they think. It affects how they view things. It affects how they deal with other people. You know, and you know, it's nice to meet a lady and just meet her honorably,
Right.
than to look at her and
Look at her as an object.
and to where your mind's conditioned to undress her and go, I wonder what it'd be like to be with her.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
and for Christian men, if you get that into your system, I got news for you. The devil will see to it that there's some lady
that comes across your path
that will come up and she won't mind.
Right.
You know, I mean, I don't tell this often, but I was one time in a church service after church. I started church in Kalamazoo, and this pretty young girl came up after service, and this is why I have an usher close to me usually after service. And pretty girl wearing a short dress, and she came up to me and she looked at me and she said, she'd been in church a few times, said, Pastor Tim, my husband think my thighs are fat. What do you think? Are
you serious?
Yes.
No.
And
well,
I never looked. I looked straight in her eyes and I said, honey, that's a discussion you need to have with your husband, not me. And I did not look. I refused to look. But the devil will see to it that there are women.
You have opportunity.
Oh, the devil will see to it that you have opportunity. And if you sow that stuff into you, I like something, we got to close up. I like something Jesus said. Jesus, just before he went through his passion, all that he went through in Calvary and the garden and everything, he said this. He said, the God of this world is coming, but he hasn't got anything in me.
That's right.
And for 3.5 years, I believe the devil was trying to plant something in Jesus.
Yep.
But,
get him. Yep.
But he didn't have anything in him.
That's right.
Listen, if you stay out of pornography, you've got nothing for the devil to reach in and get a hold of.
That's right. That's right.
But if you play around in it, you've got something for the devil to get a hold of in your life. Now tune in next week. We're going to talk about how to get out of this stuff. We'll get to the answer. But we wanted to hit at least the problem and the seriousness of the problem. Thank you for joining us for Men Only.